Senior U.S. and Russian officials are meeting in Saudi Arabia tomorrow for talks on how to end the war in Ukraine. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio arrived in Riyadh this morning. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is not involved in the talks, despite saying he won't accept any decisions about Ukraine without his country's participation. European leaders gathered in Paris today for an emergency meeting to discuss the planned negotiations. Joining me now in Studio 57 is CBS News Middle East reporter Courtney Kealy. Courtney, what do we know about this emergency meeting in Paris today?
Well, they're really reacting to Marco Rubio being in Riyadh and not just meeting with the Crown Prince there, but also meeting with the Russian officials and Sergei Lavrov. So their reaction was from the Munich Security Conference that we saw top U.S. officials and top international officials. They called a meeting in Paris and said we better, start talking about Ukraine peace as well. So what they're doing is the UK, for instance, it's hosted by Emmanuel Macron. The UK is saying maybe we'll have boots on the ground for peacekeeping. So say the Germans, so say the Swedes. Poland is saying maybe we can do some stability and strengthening of the border and the border right with Ukraine. Belarus is not in the mix, but Belarus does count. So this is Europe saying, if we're not at the table, we need to get a table set up for our own security, and we got to get ahead of this if the U.S. is going.
Is there any world in which a peace agreement does not involve a concession of land from Ukraine?
That's probably the biggest question, and it's pretty much unseeable. Ukraine has this piece of Russian land right now. That's in
Kursk
play.
region, right?
Right, and also the Russians need that port. Russians need the port because they lost a port in Syria. So it's a really geopolitical issue, too. Russians are coming to the table. They lost their leverage in some of the Middle East, and they still have to have leverage. But the question is, when President Trump says these things out loud, is he giving it all away, or is he setting up for better negotiations? Marco Rubio is there to start laying the groundwork with Sergei Lavrov, but Lavrov has been doing this for a long time, and he is his own top negotiator, and he can run circles around people, so we'll have to see what he does, too.
All right.